been talking to a lot of people over the last few months that think that aliens are angels.
The angels and demons of the Bible are real. They are the extraterrestrial time travelers.
And the government has known that for a long time, possibly going back to the 1930s at least.
Since 1930, they have known that this plane exists.
We don't have souls, but it's just the other way around. The soul has us.
But why won't they tell the American people?
You have spiritual beings that don't understand or really care for the physical world.
Like all those stories in the Bible about fallen angels and devils, like these people think that they were referring to aliens.
Immaculate conception. Spirit reproduces with human woman. If every culture in the world that we know about, who's left any kind of written or physical record, is reaching the same conclusions about something, maybe there's something there.
So I think, and this is again from inside the intelligence community, most of what we think we're seeing are avatars, biological robots that are basically put there to be the minions, if you will.
Hey guys, it's KJ from The Scariest Movie Ever. Now, I wanted to share some of those clips before we got started just to kind of get you in the mood. If you didn't know, I've personally been watching this coming UFO alien psychological operation. I've been watching this come upon the world for many, many years now, and boy, are we getting close. Like they really are getting really close to playing that card, to playing the UFO psychological operation. UFO fallen alien agenda is certainly right here upon us, and I've got some evidence of that. We've got some interesting developments over the last few weeks that I wanted to share with you guys, and of course some other observations as well. As many of you understand, we're literally at the doorstep of tribulation. The Bible is real and true and is absolutely playing out right now in our reality. We're living it. We're on the doorstep of the greatest switchover, the greatest change in human history. We're moving into a final digital age, that final Aquarian age, if you will, the last age of man, the age of the Antichrist, 7 years worth, right on the verge. And this is why we're seeing so much talk of UFOs and aliens, even more and more, and the programming just continues to get really, really thick. Here's a really interesting article I wanted to share with you guys. The FAA documents expose chilling new details withheld from East Coast drone invasion report. So as you know, we had the East Coast, quote, drone situation about a year ago or so, and to me, one of the most interesting things to come out of all of that was actually capturing in several instances of the orbs that were up there changing shape-shifting in the sky, and then turning into what looks like perhaps a drone, and then some of them turned into what looked like airplanes. And some of them, once they changed over to look like an airplane, you could actually hear the sound of an airplane. I mean, it's pretty incredible, some of the stuff we're witnessing with the so-called drones, or the interdimensionals, if you want to get real, right? So this is really interesting, though, because of the shape of some of these UFOs, and there's more on that. There's a mysterious black cube has joined the chilling list of objects spotted hovering over the U.S. during last year's drone invasion. Newly released government reports have revealed 5 incidents near Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio that have never been disclosed since the swarms of UFOs were seen along the East Coast in late 2024, along with several sightings of unidentified drones around the secretive Air Force Base in December 2024. Federal officials now say a black cube-shaped craft was spotted by a nearby airplane less than 80 miles from Wright-Patterson. But the black cube, this world is, the language of symbols is an absolutely real thing. It's a real concept. As Confucius once said, this world is not ruled by rules nor laws, but by signs and symbols. And the black cube takes us all the way back to the planet Saturn. We can see the black cube in the Middle East being worshipped. We see the black cube on the planet of Saturn, and Saturn is a representation of Satan himself. And I've covered this for years. Others have too. You can look into the black cube symbolism. It's absolutely heavy. It all goes back to Satan's system. And now we have black cubes flying in the sky. Witnesses of the strange object sent their claims to the Federal Aviation Administration on December 19th, describing how the cube was flying within 500 feet of an airplane, which was soaring 16,000 feet above the ground. This would make it incredibly unlikely to be a commercial drone, since those types of devices fly only a few hundred feet above the ground. The FAA recorded this event in their Skywatch dataset, which tracks drone sightings near airports or in restricted airspace. However, when the FAA originally published this sighting in their publicly visible reports, they didn't include any mention of the object being a black cube. But thanks to a recent Freedom of Information Act request, it was revealed that this sighting and the other drone incidents near Wright-Patterson led to a major security response, including temporarily closing off military airspace. So many of us around these parts realize that the black cube is one of the symbols of this beast system. But one of the most popular symbols of this system, of course, is the pyramid. Now, some of you may remember this, and some of you may not. It kind of got swept away in the news over the years. Alien invasion fears as mysterious object appears over Pentagon. This mysterious object was a huge pyramid. It was a huge pyramid spotted in the skies above the Pentagon, and it says it sent conspiracy realists into meltdown. Now, they don't really show any of the video on this clip. I looked it up. You can find the video. It's still on YouTube. It was filmed December 19th by a YouTube channel, Alex Dude, if you want to check that out. But there is a little bit of a picture right here you might be able to make out. There was this right here. It says, "This is it, a strange pyramid spotted above the Pentagon." And you can just kind of make it out right there. And if you go find the video, you'll see the same thing. It's almost transparent, the pyramid, and it was massive, and it was floating, legit right above the pentagram or the Pentagon. And this right here is from Fox News. It's another example of how they were covering the story of these flying pyramids and other things. Tic Tacs, I think they call them. Images leaked from Pentagon investigations show UFOs swarm above Navy destroyer. And as you can see, there's some of the Tic Tacs. But then there's the flying pyramids you can see here. And isn't it interesting? And, there's other articles on this. They really covered these flying pyramids and these other UFO sightings extensively compared to that massive UFO pyramid sighting over the Pentagon. And here's another example of pyramid-shaped UFOs spotted by Navy, maybe the best the world has ever seen, filmmaker says, which I'm pretty sure is Jeremy Corbell. And as we scroll down, once again, we have the flying pyramids here.
Christine, yeah, so this filmmaker, he just released this video that was taken by the U.S. Navy. He says that this is the best UFO video that has ever been released to the public, but there are a lot more questions than there are answers.
Who are they? Where are they from? And what is their intent?
All questions that immediately come to mind with the mention of UFOs.
We are now at a tipping point. It is time to let the public know what is known. No matter how big or small, what is known about the UFO presence on planet Earth.
LA-based investigative filmmaker Jeremy Corbell recently released this video taken by the Navy, showing what he describes as pyramid-shaped UFOs flying over the USS Russell off the San Diego coast in July of 2019.
Over the last month or so, you may have heard about this new interstellar object moving towards the Earth. They're calling it 31 Atlas, I believe. 31 Atlas. It's approaching the Earth. And I'm starting to see a bit of a setup here, and it's something I first thought of when I heard this story. reminded me of Oumuamua. I think that's how you pronounced it. There was another interstellar object heading towards the Earth they noticed a few years ago, and we started getting some talk of that. Will it hit the Earth? Is it just going to pass by? What actually is it? Some people were saying back then that it was moving more like a ship than just some object out there, which is interesting, right? Because again, I know that this is one of Satan's end games right here, is the alien psyop, the UFO psyop. I know it's coming. I've been watching for 10 years. I may not have even fully understood why I was seeing it so long ago, but now I do. I know we're right there, man. We're on the edge of this, and they're about to do it. So what happens? What happens, let's say, if there's a great disappearance on the Earth, and people are looking for answers, but we remember that 31 Atlas, that strange object in quote space, was coming our way. Now, I'm not saying this is what they're going to do with it, but this is a nice setup. They could say, oh, well, actually, and then when the time comes, they could always launch whatever, beams in the sky to look like whatever, right? And then introducing the world to the tall whites or any other number of these different demonic manifestations. So this could be a good setup for that. Harvard astronomer warns that interstellar object moving towards Earth could save us or destroy us. You see? Could save us or destroy us. What could it be? Well, the object came and they took a whole bunch of people off the Earth, right? Perhaps. Harvard's Avi Loeb shares that a Manhattan-sized interstellar object, 31 Atlas, is approaching Earth. He's the chair of the astronomy department at Harvard. He suggested that a Manhattan-sized interstellar object, which has been discovered speeding through our cosmic neighborhood, could have an alien origin, and he's advising to stay ready, as it may come to save us or destroy us.
This is not only an alien spaceship, but it's nuclear powered? Why are you saying that?
Well, thanks for having me. First, I should say that if the light that we observe from this object is reflection of sunlight, its size needs to be bigger than Manhattan Island, 20 kilometers or so. And there isn't enough rocky material in interstellar space to deliver a rock of that size earlier than 10,000 years from now. So the question is, what is it? And its orbit, the trajectory that it takes, is aligned with the plane of the planets around the sun to within 5 degrees. That's a chance of 1 in 500. And moreover, the timing
What does that tell you? What does that trajectory tell you?
Well, it indicates that perhaps it was designed by some intelligence.
That's something steering it.
Not necessarily, but the trajectory itself was chosen to be such that this object will pass close to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. The chance of that happening, the timing of its arrival is perfect for that, with a likelihood of 1 in 20,000. And so I'm just saying we should observe it. It doesn't look like it's a random occurrence. The size, the trajectory, the fact that it comes so close to 3 planets in our solar system, and actually it comes closest to the sun on October 29th, when the Earth would be on the other side of the sun. We won't be able to observe it.
What you're looking at here is a video from the United States Space Force, and even the fact that they created a Space Force in these days, where for the last 10 years we've been seeing the coming alien UFO psyop, it all just falls perfectly into place as far as I'm concerned. This is an interesting video. It's called Origins, so the origins of U.S. Space Force. And I'm going to play a little bit of this video for you. And as you can see, I stopped it at 119, or a 911, backwards, but 119. And right here, there's quite a bit going on. And like I said, I'll get to that in just a second. Let's go ahead and play a little bit of this video. Pay attention mostly, though, to the screen. And look at that thing kind of over the shoulder right there. And it's kind of hard to make out what it is, but it's a weird-looking symbol, right? Whatever it is. We'll play this first, and then we'll come back to that. So now watch closely. And what is this thing on the screen there in the background? Do you see what I'm talking about? There we go. So now I'm going to go and pause it. Now once again, just take a look at that thing on the screen. So I'll pause it here once again. Now take a look at that thing on the screen, and what does that look like to you? To me, it looks like some kind of a humanoid figure standing on a pyramid holding a staff or a rod, something like that, and just kind of the way it looks. So to me, it looks like some kind of a humanoid type figure standing atop a pyramid and holding a staff or a rod. And then on the right side of the screen, as we watch that playing out, it almost looks like, or reminds me of CERN LHC. But there's a few more things. Like I said, when you're watching this at regular speed, though, this ad, this goes by really quick. You know, it's just a few seconds and you get to see this. But I also noticed they have a 33 here, so right up here you have 3:11. If you look at the time clock over there, you've got a 3:11. You pause it at 9:11, and then that's where you get all of this imagery. But what also stood out to me is over here to the right. Look at the bottom right-hand corner, and there's a screen right there, and there's a symbol. You see that symbol? The red symbol, and there's 3 layers in the middle. There's a top section and a bottom section. Well, just the way that's laid out, it reminds me of the Kabbalah Tree of Life. And just for reference, here's the Kabbalah Tree of Life. So you've got the 3 levels in the center. You've got a top section and a bottom section. You see how that's laid out? So it's very similar to what we saw on that screen. And I wouldn't be surprised as we find these occult symbols, these fingertips of Satan's fingertips, all over the crime scene. And then I wanted to share this also for reference, the Egyptian gods. So you look at these figures, these humanoid type figures, and of course they're all holding a staff or a rod, just like the caricature we saw in that ad for Space Force. And we know, at least around these parts, that these so-called aliens aren't from other planets. These are demonic interdimensional creatures, also fallen angels, shapeshifters. So we have the Egyptian gods here, and it looks very similar to me to what we saw on Space Force. So now that I showed you the references, maybe you can see what I see now. So let's look back on the screen. And as you can see, we got the 33 on screen I showed earlier. This is paused at 119 or backwards 911. And you've got the symbol in the bottom right-hand corner that looks a lot like the Kabbalah Tree of Life. And then, of course, we have this strange-looking humanoid figure holding a staff or a rod. Looks like an Egyptian caricature, Egyptian god, standing on a pyramid. So there's a lot going on in this commercial. And it's very interesting the way they put things out. You know, things are coded, as we know in this system. On speaking of how this system is really preparing the world for what's to come with the psychological operation under aliens and UFOs, I've got more evidence of this, something I think really interesting. I found this clip from a nun, and she's talking about, of all people, Steven Spielberg. And she's explaining why he was there with the nuns, for a few days, him and a film crew. And they're doing a documentary or some kind of a movie on UFOs and aliens, right? And it looks like they're going to find a way to connect this to religion. Now, that's not a surprise. Because I believe that's going to be one of the things that these demons tell the world. It'll be something called panspermia, which it's the idea that all of humanity was actually planted here by the aliens, right? And I've seen other evidence throughout the years of this idea popping up that, that God's not real, Jesus ain't real, the Bible isn't real. All of it was created as a form of government for us, all right? It's going to be part of that demonic lie. But I did think it was interesting that Spielberg's making a movie now at a monastery, partially, that has to do with UFOs and aliens.
I know you're not going to believe me, and you're going to totally think I'm completely lying, but I swear on this little tiny Bible right here that this is the truth. I'm telling you the truth. There was a movie shoot here at the convent for the last 2 weeks, and you're never going to believe this part either. The director of the movie is Steven Spielberg. Yep, they approached us sort of out of the blue months ago asking if they could shoot here. And everybody thought it was like a scam, like it wasn't the truth. But it turns out it was, up until he came on one of the sort of setting up days where they were looking at everything and planning. He showed up that day, and that was the only time that we actually believed it was true. But they were here. They shot inside and outside the convent for, I think, 3 days. There was a lot of setup before that, a lot of tear down behind that. They were at the retreat house, and they had craft services tables set up over there. They were the nicest people in the world. That's what I really wanted to emphasize about this whole experience, is that a whole cast and crew, everybody up to and including Mr. Spielberg, were some of the nicest people I've ever met. And I worked in Hollywood for 23 years, and it wasn't like that when I worked in Hollywood. People were really, really sort of bloodthirsty and cutthroat, and nobody was really nice. They would only be nice to you if you could give them something. But I swear upon this little tiny Bible, oops, wrong hand, this little tiny Bible, that every single person from the lowest to the highest in the hierarchy of filmmaking on this crew was incredibly nice. They weren't just nice, they were kind. Like when we went over kind of shyly to see if we could eat at the craft services table, everybody was like, oh yeah, come on in, help yourself, nice to meet you. And they were very quiet and respectful of our way of life. Of course, everybody fell in love with Jenny because she was the star of the whole thing. I think it's supposed to be coming out in summer 2026, and it's a UFO movie, believe it or not. And some of it is set at a convent. The cast members that we met were Eve Hewson and Josh O'Connor. So nice, so humble, down to earth, a little bit shy even. They were so kind. I didn't get to meet Mr. Spielberg personally, but the costume people and a couple of other people asked me to be a consultant for some of the costuming and the props and the movement, the business that the nuns were doing in this. And so I was about 3-4 feet away from Mr. Spielberg. And the thing I need the public to know about him is that he is just excited to make films now as he was when he was just a kid out of film school. He was so excited. Every scene he would shoot it, and then afterwards he would go, good job, guys, excellent, that's wonderful, every time. I thought,
sure, okay, it sounds like everybody was really, really nice, that everyone's super sweet. Well, that's great, okay, but let's go a little deeper. Let's look under some of the layers. Let's look beyond that pretty smile, or that nice hello or thank you. Steven Spielberg created one of the biggest propaganda films ever when it comes to this so-called disclosure and, the aliens and the UFOs from other planets and whatnot. In the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, many of you are familiar with it. It's a famous movie. Been around for years. Very interesting, even what they told us in this movie in so many ways. Remember where the contact was made was next to this mountain, which is called the Devil's Tower. So we have the Devil's Tower in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and this is where we have contact with the aliens. So it's connecting the devil, right, with this whole batch of creatures, and we've seen this other places as well. When referencing the connection between demons and aliens, it's always important to go back to this right here from Aleister Crowley, one of the most famous occultists in all of history, you could say, a renowned magician, sorcerer, witch, you name it, part of the lodge, right? All of it. Aleister Crowley wrote a lot of books about the occult, supernatural, the paranormal, Luciferianism also. But remember this right here. It says, today they call them angels and demons. Tomorrow they will call them something else. And he used to communicate with an entity, and the entity was called Lam, L-A-M. And on the left side, you can see it. It's the channeled spirit, Lam. It looks like a gray alien, right? Very interesting. That's from his own drawing. Aleister Crowley. Then you look to the right, and it looks very familiar and similar. This was from a North Carolina abduction case. It was a sketch from one of those. So let's keep that in mind. So now let's go back to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and this is one of the sequences near the end of the movie when the alien ship arrives and all these little gray aliens come out. And what did we just look at when it comes to the exact same thing, these little gray aliens, right? Let's not forget Lam. Let's not forget the channeled spirits. Let's not forget the connection between demons and aliens. But as you see, they were all super friendly and welcoming in this movie, surrounding this guy with love. And no, that's a deception. Big time. But all of it, I believe, is preparing the public for for what's coming. But still, along with all the alien and UFO operations we see playing out right now, there's actually things happening inside humanity. And it's something I've been covering for a long time as well. You know, there's a change, there's a shift, and certainly we're seeing it. Also with the animals, you know, there's a lot of strange things that have been happening with the animals over the last few years. You know, you see all kinds of animals washing up on beaches all around the world, massive amounts of them all at a time. This has been going on for a decade. Bodies of water turning blood red, you know, animals acting very strange. I remember there for a while there were several recordings of the animals just walking in circles, right? And I like to think that even the animals know that the king is coming soon. Maybe that's part of it, right? But they are acting different, and we've even seen that with some recent stories about these rabbits. It's like in this world they always throw some kind of a term on top of it. Oh yeah, that's just this, or that's just that. It's just a virus or something. Which they seem to be doing with these rabbits here. We have rabbits now that are growing horns and tentacles right out of their mouths. Horns and tentacles. These don't sound like something from the heavenlies. Sounds like something from below. Tentacled creatures, tentacled monsters, and horns. That's the way I read it. And we see this happening with the animals, and it's not just, or with the rabbits, it's not just rabbits either. There's also other mutations that are happening with other animals right now. And people have actually been filming these rabbits. People have caught them in several different states at this point. When it first came out, they were reporting it from just one state, I believe. But now people are putting videos up, and they're recording these things in multiple states, or at least a handful, throughout America. So there's something strange happening with the animals, but I feel like everything is kind of getting mutated in these days. There's all kinds of mutation, and like I said, with humanity, people are changing. You know, we're seeing more of the of those that walk amongst us that aren't entirely human, we'll say. You know, we're seeing more examples of that. I've been showing these in my videos for a while, and I've got some more examples of that coming as well. But there's also a movie that just came out recently called Weapons. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see Weapons, which is a really, really interesting movie. I mean, throughout the movie, well, take a look right here at this movie poster. It's interesting that there's a bunch of black-eyed children. So you got all these black-eyed children. It's about a witch. But it's interesting because if you pay attention throughout the movie, they give you a lot of hints that she's not just a human being. It's not just like a witch human. This is something else. It's a parasite. She's a parasite. You know, she's another one of those that walk amongst us that look human but aren't entirely human. And she's the main bad guy of this movie. And it's really interesting because they bring in black goo as well, you know, but so she's feeding basically off the people, and this is what demons do, right? They feed off of the people. They feed off your fear and all of this, but she feeds off of different people's energy. And it's interesting because once she's taken somebody over with her witchcraft, they're filled with black goo. You know, here's a sequence right here with the black goo, and it's also right on top of the Masonic checkerboard floor. And this is something I've told y'all about for years, and I've shown examples. It's the sacrifice in the lodge. You know, the red, black, and white, those are color codings for that. The red, get it, you know, for the sacrifice on the black and white. The tiled floors. So these are rituals, sacrifice, spellcasters, all that. So interesting, here we even have a police officer who was possessed by this thing. And as you can see, that's all black goo right there. Now I want to share just a couple of examples, people catching some shapeshifters, you know, people that are among us that look like humans, but there's something off. And there's so many more examples of these that have been coming out, especially over the last few years. You guys know about demon face syndrome and all that. But people are capturing these things more and more. And some of these go back, you know, over the last few years. Like I said, I have a couple good ones I want to share here. But, you know, always keeping in mind, also, at least I'm keeping in mind, the possibility that what we're witnessing with the shape-shifting amongst us, that perhaps this will tie in to the great UFO alien psyop. You know, I've really wondered. They seem to be kind of correlating with each other, and perhaps it'll all just kind of come out together at the same time. I'm not sure, but once this the operation is really in force, and the saucers are in the sky or whatever they're going to be, and the creatures are on the earth talking to politicians and whatnot, I've wondered if perhaps this will be part of it. They'll say, we've been with you all along. Maybe that'll be the time that the terrors really start revealing themselves. We've been with you all along. We're walking amongst you. It's panspermia. We planted you here, etc. I don't know. I think about these things, and we'll see how it plays out. But until that day comes, I want you to check a couple of these examples out here.
Can you see him? He's hidden. I think he is a demon. I do. He's been hidden there. And look at that. She's blinking now in front. Look at that. See that? There. Look at that, you see his ear? See it all morphed now. Look at that, that's meant to be a child's ear. Look at it, it's Klingonish. See that, and they've cut away there. So, that's this kid here.
Meters away in the village of...
So, there's a few of them going on here, and I'm going to show you old Vlad here. The Putinage. But look at this kid here first. Look, that's the reptilian eye. He's green, he is.
Reptilians, are they real? Do they live amongst us? Or is it some type of demonic possession? What is happening within these stars on the world stage when we see their eyes shapeshift? Now, me personally, I'm thinking it's more along the lines of demonic possession. If you look into soul scraping, where they're transferring this archonic consciousness into their body from out of the ether. So I actually went into this video trying to discredit it and disprove it, and then I slowed it down frame by frame, and I see his eyes shapeshift right there. Because with AI right now, it's so hard to find out if something's real or not. So you can take this from their actual video and slow it down, and you will see his eyes do this. I was actually messing with one of my friends on Instagram. I'll tag him below, and I told him, I'm like, bro, that's photoshopped. Now that I watch it back, guys, I'm thinking it ain't photoshopped.
So please tell me y'all saw the dude from My Chemical Romance, I think his name is Gerard, morph into a demon mid-performance at his concert a couple days ago. If you didn't see it, trigger warning. If you're easily scared, click off the video right now. But this is what he looked like. Yes, this is that same man, complete morphing into a demon, a reptilian, if you will. This is what he morphed into. And we see these a lot with these celebrities, these musicians on stage. They will somehow trigger a alter ego, and then they will morph. And now here's the video for context. But it was twice. I don't know if y'all saw initially, he morphed, he went back to himself, and then he morphed again at the end of that little clip. And we see these things happen so often. I'm not very familiar with My Chemical Romance. I don't know any songs by him. What I do know is that I believe he makes it's like heavy metal music and like that rock star type of stuff. And we know that the demons heavily influence that kind of music, all music, but for sure that kind of music. And so if you are listening to this and you should probably stay away from things like this, because when people start to morph into demons, that means that they are being inspired by demons, if not an actual demon.
Well, my friends, that's about what I wanted to share with you in this video. We have flying pyramids, flying black cubes, people shifting amongst us. Yeah, they look like humans on the outside, right? But there's something off. This world is so much crazier and weirder than most people, I think, give it credit. But it really is. And living in these end times, seeing all this stuff manifest more and more, I know that people's eyes are opening. And my main hope for anybody out there is that you find Jesus Christ and you accept that free gift of salvation. It's the most important topic I could ever share with you is Jesus. That even after all the years and everything I've done, he's number one. He's numero uno. He's what you really need to know. Then go through all the rabbit holes and have fun. Start exploring this crazy system. But you've got to have that anchor of Jesus in truth. You make sure you have Jesus as your personal Lord and Savior. Accept that free gift of salvation. Have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and the protection that you really need in these days as well. Big time. So on that note, guys, thanks again. Really, I hope you're all doing well out there, and just take care of yourselves, okay? These are crazy times. Trust in Christ. Lean into Jesus, and there's no fear there, okay? All right. Take care, guys. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.
The light from a star can take millions of years to reach Earth. So when you look at a star, you're looking back in time. But I see the future. I see exploration and courage. I see my country finding new horizons out there. And I see giant leaps making a comeback. I see myself. The future is where I'll make history.